She thought he was just a taxi driver, then he took off his hat. She never imagined the man behind the wheel was the same person she'd read about in the headlines years ago, the man who vanished without a trace. But when he took off his hat, everything she thought she knew about him and herself came crashing down. Rain poured heavily against the windshield as Claire Bennett stepped off the curb, waving frantically for a taxi. Her shoes splashed through puddles, the city lights reflecting off her soaked blazer. It was past midnight, and the last thing she wanted was to walk another block alone in the storm. A yellow cab screeched to a stop. The driver leaned over, cracked the window, and said in a calm, deep voice, "Need a ride, miss?" She nodded quickly, sliding into the back seat. The car smelled faintly of coffee and old leather. She rubbed her hands together to shake off the chill. The driver wore a dark cap pulled low over his forehead. His shoulders were broad, posture straight, not the slouched, weary frame she expected from a night shift cabbie. Something about him felt composed. Controlled. "Where to?" "Riverside Apartments," she replied. He nodded without another word, eyes focused on the wet, winding streets ahead. The rhythmic thump of the wipers filled the silence. Claire pulled out her phone, no signal. Typical. The storm must have knocked something out again. She sighed, leaning back. That's when she noticed it, a small silver pendant hanging from the rearview mirror, shaped like an eagle clutching a key. She blinked. She'd seen that symbol before. Years ago, it had been plastered across every newspaper and news site. Eagle syndicate leader vanishes after FBI raid. Her heart skipped. Couldn't be. Nice pendant, she said casually. Family heirloom? The man's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed calm. Something like that. The wipers squeaked again. Thunder rumbled in the distance. For a moment, his eyes flicked up to meet hers in the mirror, and she saw them clearly. Piercing. Cold. Intelligent. Not the eyes of a simple driver. They drove in silence for a few minutes. Then, as they passed the old bridge, she noticed him glance toward the dark river below just for a second too long. Something in her gut whispered that this was no ordinary ride. When they finally stopped in front of her building, Claire reached into her purse. How much do I owe you? He turned slowly, his gloved hands resting on the steering wheel. You've already paid enough, he said quietly. Before she could respond, he removed his cap. And the moment she saw his face, she gasped. It was Alexander Cross. The man the world thought was dead. But what she didn't know was that this taxi ride would change everything.